You, the inquiry is aware, have said in a WhatsApp with another official that Mr. Cummings is a total and utter liar. He never told me he'd gone to Durham during lockdown. I only discovered it when the stories came out. He claimed he'd told me, but that he said my brain was so fogged by COVID, I didn't register. But it's not true. I would have noted it. He never told me. Is that the position you take today?
That's what I remember.
The position, though, was, of course, that public confidence in your administration, the United Kingdom government, not, I should say, from the data, the Scottish or Welsh administrations or the Northern Ireland Executive, dipped significantly. There was a very notable drop in confidence in the competence of your government. That obviously was highly regrettable. In the height of a public health crisis of unprecedented proportions, to have that blow to the public confidence in your government's competence was obviously damaging.
It was a bad moment, and I won't pretend otherwise. But actually, I think that what happened thereafter was fascinating in that whatever the rights and wrongs of the position I took on that episode, people continued to want us to get on with the job of fixing the pandemic, and they continue. In spite of what you say about the confidence factor, they continued to be more than willing to work together to defeat the virus, and that's what they did.
Is that right, Mr. Johnson? The same data which established the significant drop in confidence in your government, data from UCL called the COVID-19 Social Study, also appeared to suggest a drop in self-reported adherence to guidance. So there was not just you would say a communication or political or presentation issue, there was a substantive impact.
Well, I can't quantify that. What is certainly true is, as we've discussed a lot over the last couple of days, all MPIs start to degrade over time. Public adherence starts to fray. Whether that episode helped to exacerbate that problem, to the extent to which it did, I just can't judge.
The inquiry, as is everybody well aware, of course, that then the first reports of social gatherings in Number 10 emerged in November of 2021. You were issued with a fixed penalty notice on the 12th of April 2022 relating to an event in Downing Street on the occasion of your birthday, the 19th of June 2020, just a few weeks after the Barnard Castle affair. Putting aside the issue of your own fixed penalty notice, did you, and it's important I ask you this, did you apologise for the impression that had been given that staff in Downing Street take the rules and the regulations less than seriously? You, in fact, I think, described yourself as sickened yourself and furious.
I did, and I repeated that on many occasions.
But you acknowledge, of course, that all the breaches proved to have taken place, but the general behaviour took place in Downing Street on your watch.
I do, but I wish to just to stress, and I've always I've been clear for everything I've said. I take full responsibility for everything that the government said or did during the pandemic. I continue to regret very much what happened, but I really want to emphasise, and you talk about the impression, the version of events that has entered the popular consciousness about what is supposed to have happened in Downing Street is a million miles from the reality of what actually happened in Number 10. And I speak on behalf of, I know, of hundreds and hundreds of hard-working civil servants who thought that they were following the rules. And I know, I don't think have been properly characterised by some of the not just the media coverage, but the dramatic representations that we're now having of this are absolutely absurd. And I want to repeat that they're a million miles from the reality of what happened.
Mr. Johnson, one of the problems is that I've received a number of messages from bereaved people as I've travelled around the United Kingdom, and so many of them who suffered horrific grief during lockdown. Yes. We all know that it's far more traumatic even than many other kinds of grief. And then I'm afraid Partygate has been called exacerbated.
Of course, and I totally understand their feelings, and you know, what can I do but again apologise for mistakes that we made in number 10. What I'm trying to tell you and to tell the inquiry is that I think that the characterisation, the representation there has been of what civil servants and advisors were doing in number 10 has been a travesty of the truth. They thought they were working very, very hard, which they were, and I certainly thought that what we were doing was, as I've said before, within the rules. So that is in no way to attempt to mitigate the offence that has been caused, and I understand the offence that has been caused, and I apologise for the offence that has been caused. And you know, if I had my time again, of course I'd have done things differently in number 10, and I would have sent repeated messages round saying, please, you know, make sure that everybody can see that you're properly following the guidance. So, frankly, I think, as some of your witnesses have said, it was logistically impossible to do that. But anyway,
Mr. Johnson,
I think people know my views on this.
You say it was a million miles away from the reality of Downing Street. One of your most competent and sterling civil servants, Helen McNamara, said in live evidence to my lady, I'd find it hard to pick one day when the regulations were followed properly inside that building.
But that's the point I'm making. Because
Are you saying that this was all a matter of breaches of the regulations on account of
what? If you look at carefully,
the formulaic obligations of walking down corridors and having to work in the building structure of Downing Street.
If you read what Helen said in her evidence to you, I think actually that is what she was driving at. She says there was one meeting where we were able to do things strictly by the absolute letter of the guidance, and it was unsustainable, and that was why the guidance was written in a way so as to allow businesses to have flexibility. And the particulars, I mean, I've been around this issue many times, and forgive me, but the situation in Downing Street, the conditions of work there, we were having to call, as the inquiry has heard, meeting after meeting after meeting, at all hours of the day and night, in rapid succession, and summon people rapidly to different meetings. As Helen McNamara rightly says, in those conditions, it was very hard to follow the letter of the guidance, and I've tried to explain that many times. But I understand the offence that has been caused.
May we have 226239, page 13, please? This is around that time in the revelation of the partying in Downing Street, a WhatsApp communication between yourself and your Cabinet Secretary. Your Cabinet Secretary, Simon Case, was originally obligated to carry out an investigation, but for a variety of reasons which we needn't explore, he did not do so. But in the context of that debate at 23:04 on the 17th of December, Boris Johnson, in retrospect, we all should have told people above all, Lee Kane to think about their behaviour in number 10 and how it would look. But now we must smash on. So that wasn't about technical breaches of the regulations because of the planning in Downing Street. It was a reference to behaviour, a behaviour of your officials and advisors, and you knew how it would look, but you didn't care that much.
I did care, and to say that I didn't care about what was happening generally is the complete opposite of the truth. And yes, I think that we could have done more in number 10 to insist that people thought about the way their behaviour would be perceived by others. And I made this point repeatedly to the various inquiries that have been held already into this matter. And we should have thought about what it would look like to have people out in the garden when other people were not allowed in the garden, even though the garden was being used as a place of work. But the idea that I didn't, I mean, in your line of questioning, which has been of course excellent throughout, but you've dwelt particularly on WhatsApp exchanges and various things that I'm supposed to have said, which indicate that I didn't care. I did care, and I continue to care passionately about it. And I will, if you want, I haven't talked about this before in public, but and it goes to what you were saying earlier about elderly people and my what you claim is my indifference to the pandemic. I just want to remind you that when I went into intensive care, I saw around me a lot of people who were not actually elderly. And in fact, they were middle-aged men, and they were quite like me. And some of us were going to make it, and some of us weren't. And what I'm trying to tell you, in a nutshell, and the NHS, thank God, did an amazing job and helped me survive. But I knew from that experience what an appalling disease this is. I had absolutely no personal doubt about that from March onwards. To say that I didn't care about the suffering that was being inflicted on the country is simply not right.
Mr. Johnson, I have never suggested you didn't care about the suffering. I suggested you didn't care about the reaction to the behaviour demonstrated, a clear reference on the face of that WhatsApp.
Well, I thank you for that clarification.
Downing Street have, as Her Ladyship has acknowledged this morning, compounded the distress and the grief felt by families who were denied the opportunity either to say a final goodbye or to host a wake or to host a funeral for their loved ones. If you do understand that, as you tell us you do, why was it allowed to happen?
Thank you. I've extensively tried to explain how I think that came about and why I think the people who were working in Downing Street for a very long time and very hard believed that they were working within the rules at the time. Though, as I say to you, to those you represent, and again to Mane, I understand fully the point that you are making, and I regret it very much.
I'm going to move on from this topic, but it's perhaps important to note that by the 18th of December 2020, there had been 86,886 COVID-related deaths that year. This, I'm going to suggest, is not a matter of hindsight, it was plain that the country and that those who were bereaved were in extreme pain and distress. Could you have done more to stop it?
To stop the pandemic?
The gatherings, the Partygate, the wine and cheese parties, the secret Santas, the pub quizzes or the Zoom quizzes.
I had no knowledge of the event on the 18th at the time.
That was not my question.
At the time that it took place.
Could you have done more to stop it?
I think that the trouble was, as I've said, that people were working extremely hard in
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to. We've heard that.
If I'd had
my question is,
sorry, please go ahead.
And this may be one where a yes or no answer would suffice. Could you have done more to stop it?
I think the answer to that is that, given what I knew at the time about what was going on, the answer to that is no. But what I possibly should have done is issued a general instruction to everybody to be mindful of the rules and how things would appear. And as I say, I think in one of the WhatsApps that was earlier quoted by the counsel to the inquiry, that's my view.